first things first, let's talk about the spoiler-free portion. That's why we're still in the spoiler-free zone. Um, so if you have not seen the film yet, you're safe, you're good. We're not going to talk about spoilers right now. I just want to talk about what I felt about the film, my feelings on the film. Not really the plot or anything quite yet, until we get into spoiler territory. But I figured I'd give a little bit of just my, overall, impression and thoughts on, the film, Spider-Man No Way Home. So what did I think? Was it everything that I was looking forward to it being? I was really just hoping, that this film wasn't just a complete nostalgia bait mess where they just threw a bunch of, cameos at you and didn't really give you the meat and potatoes of the actual direction of the MCU and of this character, Tom Holland Spider-Man, which I mentioned. I wasn't very impressed with the first two iterations of the Spider-Man series, that being Far From Home. Homecoming and Far From Home. That's what the first two are called. And I wasn't really impressed with either of those that much. I thought Far From Home was pretty okay. I was pretty so-so on it. But, yeah, what did I think of this film? I thought this was definitely better than those two films. In terms of just the pacing of this movie, I mean, for a 2.5-hour movie, the movie does move pretty quickly. I mean, there's a good kick to it, especially in the first act. It jumps around, but I like, that fast-paced style of filmmaking. If you're going to do a long, big, epic film like this where you're going to have a bunch of characters and moving parts, like, I like it to be choppy and quick in that kind of way. And I felt like this movie had a good pace to it. It didn't move too fast too, to where you didn't understand what was going on. I felt like, they did a good job of really making the actual story and everything make sense. For example, without going into spoilers, I just think, actually, I won't give an example because that would actually go into spoilers, but I'll just say this much. This film is very satisfying, and it, whatever you're looking for, it'll give you some of what you're looking for. And ultimately, it delivers, and there's definitely some very satisfying moments, especially if you're a fan of Spider-Man, you're a fan of the Spider-Man films. You'll definitely be pleased with a lot of what happens in this film, but also, with that being said, the story at times, there are moments within it that feel like they're just there to get you to the big reveals and to the big moments and to the big sequences, and it doesn't feel like, it doesn't really feel as complete as it probably could have been had they not had, everything else tied into this movie that there is. But also at the same time, they wouldn't be bringing in the $100 million plus that I think this movie's going to make this weekend without it. So, it is what it is. But overall, I thought the film was pretty good. It had really everything I was looking for. The action, the CG is pretty fantastic. The CGI looks fantastic. The action sequences were really entertaining. Definitely some of the best that the MCU's had to offer since Endgame. And I think this is definitely the best film since Endgame. The best thing the MCU's done since Endgame in terms of characterization, in terms of story, in terms of emotional beats. I mean, this film has it all in terms of fan service, which this film has high dosages of. Memba beans all over the place for sure. But I think at least I was like, I'm fine with that. And I'm fine with fan service in general as long as it serves a story, it serves a purpose. And I think it does in this enough. And I'll get into it in the spoiler review. But yeah, I mean, with that being said, I mean, that's all I've got to say about this film without getting into too much spoilers. I did enjoy the film a lot. But yeah, if you stick around, you'll find out, how I really feel about it. Because, there's a lot in this film that I don't want to give away. And if you haven't seen it, I recommend you go check it out. I think it's it's a really fun film. And, it's a good bounce back film for the MCU. And I think it's going to make a lot of money. But again, it gives me some concerns moving forward as far as, creativity and originality in the MCU moving forward. And I'll dive more deeper into that in my spoiler review. But yeah, that's all I've got as far as spoiler-free review. So if you haven't seen the film, now would be the time to check out. We are entering the spoilers